Alrighty, it's another Real Fridays on Good Friday here in April 18th, 2025. I know our special guest Amir Saeed is not here yet. He should be joining us here any second. I know that Jeremy, who is one of our cornerstone founders, along with myself, Rick Rock, and Brock Cassidy, is on Rust Belt time.
The Shinola watches run 2 or 3 minutes later in Detroit.
Yeah. No, it feels like a holiday, and yet because it seems like a quieter day. There's not a lot going on. A lot of the people I've set meetings up for, postponed to Monday in honor of Good Friday. Did you grow up in any particular religious tradition, Brock, or what was your background in Maine?
Yeah. Catholic.
People go to church in Maine? It's such a secular state. It's like Vermont.
Yeah, we got churches. My family's all Catholic. I never went to like Catholic school or anything, but did like Sunday school as a kid and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did you get confirmed? Did you go all the way up?
Yeah. Confirmed, first communion. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I did the same thing. My son is in confirmation class, as he gets confirmed here in May, and he pretty much has the same disposition I had at the time. But I'm making him do it anyways because I think it'll be good for him, and it's a perplexing, religion, especially in the workplace, is something that is an interesting question. I was on a senior manager over at Seagate Technology in Minnesota in the late 90s. And at the time, a lot of Muslim, like East African immigrants were coming to Minnesota, and we didn't know what to do with them because a few times a day, they would just disappear off the manufacturing lines and they would go into the bathrooms and they'd be washing their hands and their feet and doing sort of Islamic sort of rituals of cleansing in the toilets, And so we were scratching our heads trying to figure out how do we serve and support them, and then also help them be more efficient on the line, And so we ended up creating these specific to these like Ethiopian and Somali and East African immigrants who are working on the line, these special sort of cleansing stations specific to kind of support their religious traditions. And quite honestly, we were all sort of Lutheran and Catholics, we were sort of the typical environment. And so we just, good deal, Amir. I know. So let me finish my story because I think this will be relevant to you, Amir. I was saying when I was a senior leader over at Seagate Technology in the late 90s, 98, 99, 2000, 2001, 2002, before I sort of came back into the mortgage business. It was a big technology company, manufacturing company. And we were getting a lot of East African immigrants from Somalia, Ethiopia, Egypt, most of whom were Muslim. And they would come in, and during the course of the day, they would just disappear from the line. And they were going to the bathrooms and they were doing their Islamic sort of cleansing rituals. And we were all just a bunch of Catholic and Lutheran guys, you know what I mean? Running all, running this manufacturing facility. And we were scratching our heads trying to figure out how do we serve and support them? Because a lot of them were newly hired immigrants, into the country. And two, how do we get them to be more efficient on the line? Because they were disappearing at predictable times throughout the workday. And so we ended up building these cleansing stations for them, so that way they could more easily get off the line, do their prayers, do their cleansing, whatever they did. And then they would, sort of efficiently come back to the manufacturing line. And we ended up getting sort of awards in the local Islamic community because it was like something that they felt like we were accommodating their tradition in a way that was totally out of our comfort zone. But we knew it would help them become more efficient, happier. They were more eager to come to work. And before you know it, they started referring other people to come work there because it was kind of a religiously friendly environment for them to work and support their families. And so it's always a question of how do you best support loan officers and branch managers in your workplace when there is a diversity of religious thought and practices and different things, today being Good Friday. So So that was our way of sort of leading into a Good Friday on Real Fridays while we were waiting for you to join us.
Oh, thanks. Are you really a doctor? Are you Dr. Rick? Is that for real? Your PhD?
Yeah, I got my doctorate in finance on
Hmm.
emerging partnerships. Like emerging was it was alternative revenue streams for public and private partnerships. There was a small section of my dissertation on the GSEs, but it was mainly how there are certain public objectives that are good. Like homeownership is a good thing for meeting certain societal goals of lowering crime and educating children and organizing civil society and so on. The more transient a society is, the less stable it is. And so when the GSEs were formed, really in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, through different sort of iterations of themselves, it became a public and private partnership. It was kind of like, how could these liquidity facilities take loans off the books of the banks, so that they can continue to lend, right? That's why, like in Africa, like I've done some projects in Africa where, like, you can get a home in Africa, but it's a 5-year note, 28-30% interest, and they'll kill you if you don't, or put you in prison if you don't repay the loan. And in West Africa, especially, a lot of the banks hold every single note on their balance sheet, so they have no liquidity facility to actually insure them or to buy them off their books, right? So that's a public and private partnership. It's a public good, a public investment, taxes and so on go into these institutions to be able to prioritize home ownership, knowing that it achieves certain societal goals. Anyways, but there's lots of different ways the government partners with private industry to drive technology innovation, the internet, different technologies that it considers to be strategic priorities. And so my research was on all that stuff and the economics around that.
What's your thoughts? I didn't know that. No.
Yeah.
I know that. So I can call you Dr. Rick now?
Well, please don't.
Doc
but
Rock.
Yeah.
Huh?
Doc Rock.
Yeah.
Doc Rock.
That's what I like.
Yeah.
That's okay. Done. All right. I'll see you guys there. Job's done, man. I got my nickname for Rick.
No. When your family immigrated, was it from Iran?
Yeah,
Was it
1985.
Now, were you guys a part of? Were you on the Christian side or on the Muslim side? Were you guys, or were you?
Well, Iran is 99% Muslim, right?
Yeah.
And I was born Muslim.
Yeah.
My parents are Muslim, but I converted to Christianity when I was 16 here in the States. My parents,
Oh wow.
yeah, they're very progressive. Excuse me, they're not pious or anything. Their parents, my grandparents were, especially on my dad's side. My grandfather on my dad's side was Army general, military guy, hardcore, Muslim. But my dad was just super progressive. And then when we came to the States, long story short, I got into a lot of trouble, and we never really practiced religion. And then I met a Armenian kid who he's my best friend, and he was, he's Armenian, and he kind of, he looked like me because the school I went to was 4,000 kids in high school, and it was like 99% white. And so there was like a group of Asian kids, brown kids, Indian kids, and then there's
you kind of look like us, but you don't.
I'm like, damn, this is really, really intimidating. But I met him, and I'm like, I really assimilate with this kid. And he's like, you're a good basketball player. You should come play at our church. We have an awesome youth group league. And church, I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah. I'm like, church? I'm not going to church. That's weird, right? And it was funny, Rick, because right around that same time, maybe a few years back, that whole David Koresh, Waco, Texas thing happened, if you remember, right? And I just was like, damn, is this church gonna be like a cult? Is what I thought. But when I went, man, that changed my life, man. Just really good people, and they didn't look down on me, because for 12 years of my life, I was, it's pretty public. I told the story 100 times, but I just felt like a second class, looked down upon. I was a broke immigrant kid, didn't have money, moved around a ton. Dad was a shoe salesman. Mom couldn't get a job at McDonald's. And so it was always like this, I actually struggled with it for a long time. But, through therapy, you realize that, how you look at yourself, right, is how you have the world look at you. And so how I looked at myself was broke immigrant kid, English speaking a single language. And I thought a lot of people looked at me the same way. And I created that type of like mindset. So when I met Danny, my best friend, brought me to church, met some great people. They really took me in. They didn't judge me. The church had Black people, Asian people. It was very diverse, Glenview, Illinois. And I felt comfortable, man. And people were successful, but they didn't really like look down on people. You know, like that's the other thing, man, is like I meet some religious people. And when I go to I've been in mosques, I've been in synagogues, right? Like I have a saying, if all your friends look like you got a problem.
Yeah.
Like I have a very diverse group of friends from everywhere. Like you talked about Somalis, Nigerian. I can say, hi, how are you in 25 languages, right? I know their cuisines. I understand their cultures. I'm very well traveled, right? None of my friends look like me. Some do, but most of them don't, right? And so what I'm going with all this is like, you know, when I went there, I started to see people at like at churches, for example, they all look the same, you know, and then when they come out, it's like, they're not really walking the talk. That's why sometimes like over religious people that throw me all these, like, I'm like, dude, chill out. Like, just show me through your actions, you know, like show me through your actions, accept me for who I am. Like, do you have some Muslim friends? I ask them. Do you have some Jewish friends? Like Go Coaching, our enterprise is called Jah Enterprises, Jah. Jah is God, right? J is Jesus, A is Allah, H is Hashem. I'm Christian. My co-founder, Justin, is Israeli Jewish. Roel is my other co-founder. He's Muslim. We're a Muslim, Christian, Jewish guy that have come together and created Jah, and we launched Go. And we love each other. We respect each other. Because today, this is Good Friday. It's Passover.
Yeah.
People just get so weird about religion, man. Like it's one God, man. And God is in your heart. And it's how you act, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Well, I didn't know a lot about your background. I knew you had immigrated. Your family had immigrated from Iran, but I didn't know sort of the religious tradition around it. And I would say that when in 2010, 11, 12, I know, you know, Renee just got back from Saudi Arabia, and back in 2010, 11, 12, 13.
Sheikh Renee bin Al Rodriguez.
Well, the funny thing is, you know, I had a work visa in Nigeria, and I had a work visa in the UAE, and then one in Afghanistan. And so I would travel, you know, back and forth, you know, pretty frequently, every, you know, 3-4 months, on some projects with the World Bank and the Central Bank in Afghanistan, and so it was but you know, for me there was almost nothing more profound than going with, and this was in Afghanistan, going with an Islamic friend of mine into a mosque and just sort of praying for peace. You know, just kind of coming together and saying, hey, you know, what is it that we can do, at least our part, right? What is it that we can do in our part to kind of build that bridge? And it was really just a profound thing to do, because I'd never been in a mosque, you know, quite frankly, or at least in the area that I could go into one. And in Afghanistan, it was a really, really profound sort of experience. But I agree with you. Like, if there is a sense of empathy and appreciation for people's religious backgrounds, even if they're not particularly devout, if you know a little bit about that, you really get a sense for who they are, at least how they were raised, in some of their influences. So when you're working with them from a sales standpoint, or you're trying to coach them, we're trying to bring out the best in them, trying to determine what motivations exist, often is rooted with how they were raised, the relationship with their parents, the relationship with their church or their synagogue or their mosque. And so having a better understanding of that really can help.
I mean, imagine if everybody was like me and you. I can't. I mean,
yeah,
I'm really happy with myself. I think I bring a lot to the world, but imagine like I like cultures, man. Like, this is what makes things amazing. Like, I don't want everyone to be like me. And I'm a Christian, but like, at the end of the day, dude, like, the world is so beautiful because it's so different, you know, like, and so I don't want to go down a wrong topic here, because I made a promise to not talk about RPM, religion, politics, money, you know, so that's my thoughts on that.
Well, so far you violated maybe at least one of the three, but that's okay though. You know, to me, it's almost like, you know, in our conversations that we have with Jeremy and Brock, When you're talking about the whole person and you're trying to lead people and you're trying to lead the whole person of those people, it's difficult to do that without having a more three-dimensional view of the people that you're leading or the staff that you have, without having an understanding of these things. To me, it's not about. Sometimes it's. I don't mind talking politics as long as people understand, it's not about being divisive. It's about understanding where people come from, and why it is they believe what they believe. I hate the debate. I hate the argument, I should say. I don't mind having good, healthy, constructive debates. I just hate the argumentation where I'm going to argue you into a position where it often isn't an intellectual premise. Often it's a matter of the heart. It's like, I might be for welfare or public services because I grew up in welfare. Those types of positions. And it's like, so I'm going to vote, let's say for the Democratic Party, because they're going to support, be ones to more support the public services, because when I came over as an immigrant, my family depended on those services. And as a result, they have my loyalty, so that's not like an intellectual thing. It's a heart thing. And how can you argue with that? So that's why I think people just get so ramped up and I've crossed the line many times on those subjects, but I hate doing it when I find myself doing it, because it just ends up stepping on people, and I hate stepping on people. I want to see people succeed and thrive, not feel bad and be shut down and shouted down. So this week here, so Jeremy's a little bit late. Where are you, Jeremy? Are you in Detroit? Are you just walking the streets? What are you doing?
Hello, Amir. Sorry I'm late. Yes, Rick. I had a great lunch meeting with another kind of entrepreneurial-minded guy here in Detroit, and so I'm walking literally through my neighborhood. Thought maybe that would be a fun way to keep Real Fridays light.
Real.
It sounds like real. It sounds also like I definitely tend to the philosophical as well, so it feels like we were talking a little of that when I joined, but really nice to meet you, Amir. Thank you for chatting, and thank you for being laid back with me wandering through my neighborhood. I appreciate that.
All good, man. All good.
So yes, Detroit.
One of the reasons why I wanted to have Amir on the show is because we've had Amir, we've had some pretty strong thought leaders on the show. We just had the founder of Picasso, who was an executive at Zillow, who started the company Dotloop and sold it to Zillow. He was on it last week. We're going to have Joe, who's the CEO of Optimal Blue, on the show here in a couple of weeks. We've had a number of really good thought leaders in different spaces, and there's such a big segment, obviously, probably, the 300,000 or so, 300,000, 350,000 people in housing, over 100,000 of those are loan officers, they're licensed loan officers in the business, and maybe 70,000 of those or so that are licensed, or that licensed, but that are producing, and so having a strong leader, which you are, and you have your finger on the pulse of originators across the country, just seemed to make sense, because it's kind of the forgotten population of workers that ends up being the ones that are the most, in my view, taken advantage of by companies and by leaders, quite frankly. And I think people like yourself, and by coaches, I would say, but I would say people like yourself who are really authentic coaches and people who really lift people up because you want to see them get better, go from 1 to 3 units a month or 3 to 5 to help serve and support their goals and successful objectives. So I really wanted to have you on the show just to talk about what your approach was and when you made that transition from originating to leading, and then what inspired you to kind of go from leading in a micro sense and leading to a macro sense, because you have 38,000 or so LinkedIn followers, and you have, you probably touch, how many people a year do you touch on LinkedIn, Amir? Do you have a sense of that, or even on social as a whole? Do you track those metrics?
I know where to get them. I don't ever track it, man. I stay away from that, but probably millions if I had to check,
Yeah.
So I think, well, thanks for having me on, guys. Rick, you're my guy. Good to be with you guys. Cool what you guys are doing. I think I don't know where to start, but I'll keep it kind of short. My thought is my entire life is defined by, people helping me. Like that old saying, like, it's lonely on the top, and like I'm self-made. I don't even, like, I guess maybe because English is my second language, I really like pay attention to expressions, but like I'm like lonely at the top. That's the weirdest thing I've ever heard in my life. I get it, but I don't get it. Right.
Yeah.
Like you can't get to the top unless you're with other people. But I get it. Right. And then the whole like self-made millionaire, like that to me is wild. Like you cannot be a millionaire without other people. Like it's like
Yeah.
it's impossible. Right. Like so
Yeah.
so anyways, like so I started thinking, okay, I'm a broke immigrant kid, I'm barely graduating high school, like I'm not going to college. What am I going to do? Right. And this whole country just defines you like at an early stage with your college degree. But times are changing, man. Younger kids are getting smarter. They're realizing, yeah, college is good, but it's not for everybody. And so I was kind of ahead of that growing up in a small business. My dad had a small business in Chicago. He'd take me to work every Saturday, take me to work 6 days a week in the summer. Right. I learned the process of business. He had some apartment buildings. So I was started off as a janitor there. Then I started to learn copywriting. I would put ads for the apartment buildings in Craigslist. My ads would just like do really well. Right. I would learn how to negotiate. I started selling cars. He had a car dealership. At one point, he had 3 medallions for cabs, right? So I learned how to like handle cab drivers. I just was getting a second education. While I had a 1.7 school GPA, I got a 4.0 street GPA, right? Like I learned how to like deal with people. Like I learned how to run credit reports. I was counting money at a young age, so I became very comfortable with it. I got very street smart. Like I knew how to move. Going to the city, growing up in the city compared to the suburbs, like it's a different way that you grow up. You know how to like be resourceful, right? Like, so with that being said, when I got into the mortgage business, I just was like, you know what? I have no pride. Like that's one thing with me is I'm a pretty like confident guy, but really deep down, I'm like, I don't know this. Who's the best person that has this? I'm going to go find that person. So 20 years of my career has always been like, who's really good at this? I cold call them. I get them on the phone and say, will you mentor me? Will you show me how to do this? What I realized too is really successful people, like they don't get approached. Like there's less turbulence on a 40,000 feet in the air on a private jet. There's way less turbulence. The higher you go, the less competition you have.
Yeah.
So like I call all these people and I'm like, will you guide me? Will you mentor me? And I'm like, I'll do whatever you tell me to do just to show you I'm not going to waste your time. So I ask advice because you also got to understand step 1 is to get in front of people. Step 2 is to make sure you show them that you're taking the advice and you're not an ask hole, right? You ask for advice, but you're not fucking doing anything with it. Like that's the thing that drives me crazy with people.
Yeah.
Like the people that say, Amir, can I pick your brain? I'm like, no, you can't pick my brain. I said, what you can do is you can send me a Loom video and tell me what you're trying to get done, right? And half the time they don't even do that. Right. So I create like, cause now I'm that guy that people want to reach out to me and I'm like, no, you're not going to pick my time. Like, dude, I make a lot of money per hour. You got to show me if you're really credible. Right. So I always make sure when I went after these people, like I came from a place of like, dude, I'm hungry. Teach me what you need to do. And then I started lapping people. I started lapping all these kids with college degrees and their MBAs and this. Cause you know what I realized, Rick and everybody, the most important skill in life is sales. How you communicate, your level of communication directly impacts your level of income. Bottom line. So I was like, I'm going to be a masterful communicator through copywriting, visually, right? Like I learned the science of like what color shirts to wear at homebuyer classes, right? Like I studied this, dude. So long story short, I went to a big event in Vegas in 2013. I was really down and out at the time at my mortgage business. All these guys started coming on stage in the mortgage business. Well, I have a bullshit meter growing up as an immigrant, being in small business. I can read bullshit a mile away. So all these guys are coming on stage. I'm like, this guy's a bullshitter. This guy's a bullshitter. And I'm like, this guy's definitely a bullshitter. Right. And I'm like, okay, like everyone wants to talk about the highlight reels, right? They're coming in and they're talking 100 miles per hour. I'm like, okay, this guy doesn't speak in specificity. If you're really good at what you do and you know how to teach it, you should speak in specificity, not generalities. So finally, after all, like I took off my boots because I was going through all the bullshit listening to these speakers. 2 guys come on stage. Todd Screama and Josh Sigma. I got to give them a shout out. There was no like music and lights and like fog machines and like decks. These guys were like, this is how you make $1 million a year. Boom, 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 boom. I go, oh my God, these guys are legit. So I joined the coaching program And what happened is I realized if we come from a place of a growth mindset, it is the greatest skill one can have is I got a white belt. What can I learn today?
Yeah.
So I just took off in the business. Now, what happened is I started seeing some of these coaches in 2020, 2021 not adopting the modern way of how loan officers can get business through social, right? They're just like the irony, the coaches convincing students to change their ways are not changing their own ways.
Yeah.
So I came out, I'm kind of like the hot kid on the block, early 40s, just did almost $1 billion in production. So I got the credibility. I know how to create content. I also got courage to stand out on social.
Yeah.
Right. Those are the 3 C's you need to really stand out in this world. Like you got to be polarizing. You got to have thick skin to put your opinion out there.
Yeah.
You know? So I had the credibility as a loan officer. I had the care that I want to help people. I knew how to create content. I had the courage. And what I'll tell you, Rick, and everybody is the timing was great. Right now, people need a voice from the trenches. Like I won the National Association of Mortgage Brokers Battle of the Coaches in Caesars Plaza, okay, in Vegas. And there was other coaches on stage. My former mentor, Rick Ruby, was on stage. I knew I was going to win at one critical moment because everybody voted. 10,000 people streamed in to vote after we were done battling. And I knew because I listened with my eyes. I looked at everybody's face in the audience and I go, I got this. Because a lot of these guys are so unrelatable.
Yeah.
There's a big gap. I like to call myself, I'm like the Jimmy Hoffa of loan officers. You understand? Like I speak their language. I fight for them. I'm in the trenches with them. And I can teach them how to do certain things with crayons. It's not complicated, right? So it's gone really, really well. Go Coaching is almost 1,000 members now. I think it's the #1 modern loan advisor coaching community in the country. You know, like, and you got to be coachable though, right? So a lot of loan officers still are so set in their ways.
Yeah.
So I think it's a skill.
Amir,
you know?
Amir, look, do you have a coach? Is there somebody
I
else
do.
that, from a senior leadership standpoint to kind of say, hey, like, what do you like? Who's your coach? Do you mind sharing that?
I don't
Because
mind
I
at all.
love that you have one.
I have a marriage coach. I have a nutritionist. I have a business coach, and I have a life coach. I got 6 coaches in my life right now. My
Dude, I
business
love
coach
that.
right now is Richard Milligan, who some of you guys might
Hey.
know. Oh my gosh!
Look
You know
who just-
what?
look-
I need
That dude's
to sit up
cracking.
now, man. I need to make sure. I need my makeup team here, my hair team. Yeah, you better sit up, son. You better sit
The
up.
status just went up like 10
No,
notches, man.
I do love that, and I love that Greg just popped in. This is awesome because I know Greg's a huge fan of yours and a big fan of the show. And
That's
I
my
love
guy right there, man.
And quite honestly, I love the fact that you have a coach. I mean, here's a guy who, you know, you and your partners that you guys run. You run a 1,000-person organization with loan officers across the country wanting to do better, to be better. And there's no question when you look at the data of the loan officers and who's doing the production, there's a lot of mobility. There's a lot of opportunity for those hungry C players and the hungry B players to become the new B and A players.
Exactly.
But there's
Exactly.
very, very few organizations that really invest in that kind of growth within the ranks like that. It's just a churn and burn. And then we as executives scratch our head saying, you know, why aren't these people more loyal to us? It's like, because it's not reciprocal. You're not building us up. So why as loan officers should we be in turn loyal to you if you're not in turn going to be loyal to us to develop us, build us, and to nurture our opportunity to grow and our production? So I love what you're doing, and I love the fact that you have a coach. I was actually curious as to who actually, because it was the Tim Berheems and, you know, back in the earlier days, right? Tim Berheem and Greg Frost and
Duncan, yeah.
Todd Duncan and you know, and Cindy Erdman was kind of a student in their classroom, and now she's got her own coaching sort of sort of curriculum. Like who back in those days were your go-tos? Was it the Tim Berheem kind of lone toolbox?
Rick Ruby, Todd Screamo.
No, those are the
training.
two. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then their coaches, you know, Shayla Gifford, you know, Chris Haynes, like Jeremy Forcier, but it was Todd and Rick, man. Those are the guys. They changed my life. Literally, they changed my life. I would not be here if it wasn't for those 2 guys. Like, I'm a better husband. I have date nights, how I have systems around my time management, how I've learned processes. Like, that was like the Harvard, dude, of like Like, I don't have a college degree, but me getting the valedictorian in my graduating class, 2 years at the core,
Oh,
I'm multiplying
incredible.
people because of that program. I'm literally changing thousands of people's lives because I went through that program and I embraced it and I did the work, and it spoke to my soul of that I want to do the same thing when God has me to be ready for it. And I'm so glad that I wasn't a coach before, because being in this coaching seat, Rick, right? Like, it's a big responsibility. It takes zero ego. You know, I got a little bit of an ego, but it was terrible 5-7 years ago. And even worse, 7-10 years before that. So I'm so happy the timing of things happened, because, you know, now that I'm in the coaching seat, you cannot be a coach and not have patience and empathy and attunement and emotional intelligence. Like, there's a lot involved. And, you know, I tell people all the time, there's differences between a coach, a teacher, a mentor, a consultant, and a therapist. People get those 5 mixed matched, right? And I'm happy to share what the differences between the 5. But in order to be a great coach, you have to almost have a little bit of all those in one.
I was just going to ask you that. Yeah.
You know, because there's moments where I will get on and I pay attention to body language, dude. When I get on a call with students, I look and I pay attention to how they're doing, because it says a lot. And I want to make sure first I connect with them before I correct them and direct them. Right? So, dude, the other day, I had a 1-hour one-on-one coaching session with one of the top, I'm not going to say which company, he's number 3 at a top 10 IMBA, Rick, and gang. So I recorded and I sent it to my entire staff at Go Coaching. And I said, I want you guys to give me your takeaway. You know what they said, Rick? They said, Amir, the first 30 minutes, we had no idea where you were going with that. You were digging to the guy's upbringing, his marriage, his kids, who is the breadwinner in the house, right? Where he works in the office, how his health is.
Yeah.
Once I fact-finded and I mapped it, I knew that he didn't have any personal issues. Now he had no excuse to do the work. As coaches, we sometimes forget what's going in our personal life really affects what's going on in the professional. And you have to be tapped into those things as a great coach. And you know who did that great was Phil Jackson with Dennis Rodman.
Yeah.
Mike would come in and say, Phil, why are you letting this asshole go to Vegas? Me and Scotty are busting our ass. And what do you say? He goes, this guy is a free bird. He does better when you let him fuck around a little bit. Let him go to Vegas.
Yeah.
A great coach knows KYP, baby, knows your players, you know?
Dude, that's such a good analogy. That's such a good analogy from a Chicago kid. I love it. You know?
So, you know, with Richard Milligan, that's the other thing, dude. You know, when I was working for my dad, I was so scared to go in the mortgage business. And I think G. Shuckles and I talked about this on his podcast. I had the opportunity to get in the mortgage business, Rick, and I was so nervous. I was sweating. My family, I lived at home until I was 27. My mom would make a big Persian breakfast every Sunday morning. We read the Tribune, and I was like trying to ask my dad if I can leave the mortgage or leave his business and go to the mortgage business. He said, absolutely. He goes, you have to work for somebody else to know what it's like. If you're going to be a leader one day, you have to have been a worker one day to understand how to do it. Best advice. When I get coached, oh my gosh, man. How I get challenged by my life coach, who's a pastor, to help me be a better man, right? Yeah. I will call him, Rick, and I'm like, I yelled at this person. I dropped the F-bomb at this person. And then he checks me, right? And I get better and better and better. Richard will coach me. And in those moments, I'm like, this is how it feels to be challenged as a student.
Yeah.
I have to feel this right now, how uncomfortable the assignment he gave me. So when I'm with my students, I'm attuned with them.
Sounds like my relationship with Greg.
Oh, gosh.
But I'll be honest,
he's my life coach, actually. He's my life coach. That's why he came on. He's my life coach.
Amir, I'm telling you, I've been in countless hours of meetings with Greg, and I've never seen him this focused and this zeroed into a conversation. Not a single one.
It might be AI, man. You never know with Greg. You know?
I mean, you have mortgage royalty on here. You have people royalty on here, not just mortgage.
Thanks, brother. Yeah. I will say what you said earlier. I want to make sure we don't skirt it. Like, obviously, you know, I scream Daniel Salz's praises from the hilltops, right? Like that guy, man, he and we crack up because we did a site visit to Rick Ruby's office 10 years ago. And Rick would always have people stay in a hotel. And I'll never forget. I have said this story 20 times. Daniel and I and Robbie Sampson were in the hotel room, and we were just like hanging out like it was like business camp before we went to Rick's house. And Daniel's in his boxers, you know, the Brazilian air, you know, the Brazilian stud. And I'm like, Daniel, can you show me and Robbie how you do your realtor meeting? And I swear his eyes lit up. He's like, with this big Brazilian accent, he's like, this is what I do. I go in, I wear power tie, Ferragamos, I sit down, I move the salt and pepper shaker, I sit in front of them and I slide my brochure, and he's going through his whole process. And me and Robbie are cracking up. But the point of the story is, I looked at Robbie and I said, this guy's going to be a killer. You see how intentional he is?
Oh, yeah.
How purposeful he is. So when I see Daniel, it just goes to show you have to re-recruit your people. You can get them to do more loans, right? With what you have through coaching. Look what Daniel does. He gets these newly licensed guys, or they don't have that much experience, and he makes them champions. He's the Patriots. As long as you got Belichick and Brady, put them in the game and they're going to win championships, right?
Yeah.
You can get more out of the people you have right now, and people are starving for coaching.
I'm curious with the makeup of I don't know a ton about the coaching space, so I'm just listening here. But I'm curious: is it easier with your current coaching business? Is it easier to get brand new LOs, blank slate, give me the playbooks, coach me, or do you get a lot of, or is it like a hybrid of people that are trying to level up that have been in the business for a while? Or I'm sure it's a mix, but like how do those differ? How do your strategies with those guys differ?
It's a very inquisitive question of you, Brock. So I'm going to give you a little bit of my secret sauce, how to build a dynamic infopreneur space. So I'm coaching now infopreneurs across the world, right, to help them build how to build an 8-figure company online, right? So what I tell them all, I said, hey, do not start low ticket. The fear in you is going to want to discount your services to get clients. Do not do that. Go high ticket first. Because with high ticket, right? Yes, you might get rejected more, but those are the people that will invest more and they'll do the work, and you'll have a higher profit that you can reinvest back in the business, and you won't have a headache. You all know that saying, especially mortgage guys, you get a $100,000 buyer, they shop you with 10 different lenders, they complain about $2. You get $1 million buyer, everything looks good. Here's the docs. I referred you my brother, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we went high ticket first, Brock, because I'm a pretty ballsy guy, right? I went high ticket. I'm like, we're doing this. So we got really good producers, 100 units or more a year. They were coached at other companies. They wanted something different. We went deep with them. Then I brought in a middle level. Now I have a lower level. And guess what? All the low level, most complaints, and not all of them, but what we're rolling out actually is by the end of the year, we actually are rolling out. We made a decision this week. We think there's a tremendous opportunity to bring in brand new non-licensed loan officers. So I'm creating a whole program. And when they come out of this program, they'll be licensed. And I'm going to partner up with different mortgage companies. I'm going to become like the breeding ground for newly licensed loan officers that have gotten licensed and coached. I'm just going to spit them out to different companies. I think there's a great opportunity there. But that was the last thing that I wanted to build. And we're about to get there.
Yeah, no, I love that. Yeah, it makes a ton of sense to place the new killers, the new guys on the block wherever. But it makes sense for the strategy you went about it. We got a question here from our friend Louis at Arch MI of an example of like what would define high ticket in your world when you look at. Was that like the 100 loan? Is that what you're saying?
High ticket, yeah. Thanks, Louis. High ticket is basically. It's a high ticket is a number that's relatable to anybody and anybody. For us, our HTO high ticket offer is you have to close at least 100 units in the last 12 months, and it's $20,000 for 6 months, right? And so that's high ticket. So like I get people that are doing 100 more units. They know what it takes, and it's basically you give me one loan. The average loan amount last year, I ChatGPT, my best buddy now, last year was $355,000. Rick's the numbers guy. I might be off, but I trust AI. The average basis points was 92 to 102 basis points. So let's say 100 basis points, 355, 3,500, right? Yeah. It's 3,500, and I'm going to get you back literally 7 loans in 1 month. So how we relate it is we just chunk it down, but people that at that mindset, Brock, they understand. Yeah. They understand the exchange. With low ticket, unfortunately, you need a lot of more customer service. I didn't have the bandwidth at the time to hire more staff to handle all their questions, right? And you know what the sad thing is? The low ticket is 5,000 for 6 months, Brock. They don't implement half them,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They don't implement.
Want to talk about the money back guarantees and everything else. And it's like,
Yeah. And check this out. You know, I was at Lower. These guys know I was at Lower. I would get fucking frustrated there, man, because I'm the hottest guy on the block right now when it comes to coaching. Like the people I coach, you would be shocked. That's like incognito. I sign NDAs. Who I'm coaching in the country right now, and they send me voice notes, bro. I got one yesterday, like Amir. I went to 5 other coaches, and these are the coaches. I asked them this question in voice note. Your advice was the best one and the most different one of all of them. Now I'm not bragging. So I don't go get these newly licensed people and people that don't pay for coaching. Because when I was coaching these guys at Lower, I'm like, dude, people are paying me $5,000 an hour to coach. I'm giving you shit for $3.99, and you're just looking at me like I'm entertaining you like a monkey on a tricycle. Nobody washes a rental car. Nobody washes a rental car. You don't pay, you don't do. And I don't talk to you unless you pay.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially with so many loan officers leaving the business right now. That's compounded even more.
Let them leave, man. Quitters create space for earners. We need a purge. I'm tired of these low-level loan officers that are blaming the market, that are blaming Trump, that are blaming Powell. Dude, come on, man. Your parents raised you better than that. Stop complaining. There are loan officers in the same company, in the same city. Yesterday, I coached on my elite members, guys. 6 calls, 20 students. I went around the horn, Rick. I said, how many loans in the pipeline? How many loans in the pipeline? How many loans in the pipeline? Not one said less than 20. How is that? Like, it just goes to show. How are you complaining with 2 loans in your pipeline? This guy's got 20. What did he have? He has a third eye on his forehead? This what I love about this market. It's weeding out all the weak and the complainers.
Yeah.
You guys to go. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got a little passionate about it.
No, I mean, look, I love it because it the focus has to be on those who actually want to make the difference. You know, they might be, you know, just because they're doing 1 or 2 units a month doesn't necessarily diminish what they could be. What diminishes what they could be aren't their numbers. It's really their willingness to actually put into place new systems or new behaviors that's going to get them to the next level.
Okay. Now we're talking.
Yeah.
I lead these master classes nationally. Thousands of people log in, right? The first thing I make them all write down in the beginning, I said, hey, and I catch their attention because, you know, I'm kind of a smash mouth guy. All of you write this down. I am a top producer. I said, let me tell you something. I have some associates that do $300 million a year. They're assholes. They're not a top producer in my mind. Your production doesn't mean anything to me. If you do 2 loans a month and you're busting your ass and you're humble and you're willing to learn and you're getting better every day, you're a top producer in my book. Don't compare yourself to anybody. But if you're complaining and saying this market is hard and you're not a good person, you're not a top producer in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
Where did you go, Rick? Your mind just went to like, where did you go? Spreadsheets, economic land? Where'd you go, man? Stay with me.
I was trying to pivot over to Greg because Greg is
He's trying to see if he can find a way that I can add some value here.
Greg,
No,
He's like,
I can keep talking if you want.
no, I'm like,
No.
yeah.
Well, I was going to say, Greg. I mean, there is different programs that you've put in place, so especially over the years, but even recently at NFM around you know, sort of taking like decent to moderately good to even strong loan officers and really taking them to the next level through some of the internal systems and some of the coaching systems that you've implemented recently. But I just don't see companies do that. And do you think, Greg, from an executive standpoint, that it's just too common that mortgage companies either they lack the money, the commitment, or just the belief that loan officers can get better?
Good question.
I think that so many IMBs are scrambling and have been in this defensive mode for so long now. They're kind of numb to the idea of doubling down on their LOs, investing in them to the degree that maybe they once did, because that involves picking your head up from the grind, you know, and from stopping the worrying about, am I going to have a profitable quarter? What's my competition doing? What are these other lenders doing to consolidate up? So I think it depends on the mindset, the leadership. There are a lot of components to it, but you guys touched on something really really important, and that is the lack of loyalty in the business. It's funny. I was just talking to a COO from a top 5 mortgage company literally before I got on this call, and he and I were talking about. He said to me, "Man, nobody's loyal. We do all these things for all these guys and girls, and we pour into them, and after 2 years, they think they're a free agent, and we have these companies throwing money around, and we brought these people in from the ground up, gave them everything that they ever dreamed of. They told us they'd never leave us, and then after 2 years, they leave for a check." So I think there's a combination of a lot of things that go on. But to Amir's point, like he makes a really salient point here. You're a top producer if you're working hard and you're a good person, right? So in a lot of ways for us, the people that pay the most when we're in a competition up against one of those companies and somebody comes to us and says, well, this lender's offering us this, can you go up to that number? If that's your determining factor and that's what's going to be your driver, you don't belong here. We don't want you, because we want people that want to also invest in the company and take pride in it as if it's theirs. And when you have people working with you like that, then you want to go above and beyond for them. So I just think the relationship component of this business has really gotten off the rails for a combination of reasons. One of them is the fact that we're in 4 years of basically survival mode. And the other thing is this free agent thing, where since 2019, people have been getting paid. Everyone thinks they're Tyreek Hill in a contract year. So how we bring that back in, how we reel that back in, it's going to be hard to do. But I think it really starts with focusing on fundamentally, what do you value in people? What do you value in your leaders? And how can you really pour into folks and let them know you care about them? And you're going to get hurt and you're going to get crushed and you're going to get devastated over and over again. But you still need to go all in with your heart and lead with love. And if you do that, you can wake up every day knowing you tried and you did the right thing. So that's a long way of answering your question. But fundamentally, we're definitely at an inflection point in this business when it comes to loyalty and focusing on the right things and pouring into our people. It's hard to do as leaders when you're constantly getting kicked in the balls. Honestly, it's hard to do. Amir, what do you think?
I think there's certain things leaders can do that most of them don't. That's the invincible, and it's the unscalable, and it's so easy, right? So we have a level 4 Peak Plus where Richard Milligan and I coach recruiting leaders. We have 12 of them in our program right now. He teaches recruiting. I coach retaining and rising. How to retain your LOs and get more out of them. He coaches on how to get more in. First assignment I give all the recruiting leaders, G Shuckles, as I say, every Friday, you have a time block, 2 hours. That's your spontaneous outreach calls. And you're going to pay your rent and tell me who you spoke to. You're going to literally randomly call a handful of LOs every week without anything in return. Business is conditional. It's not unconditional. Like my mom and I, we have unconditional love. But like my loan officers, it's my realtors, it's conditional. A lot of leaders think I did this for you. It's 2 years. Where are you going? No, it's like complaining about the game. Like I got hit. I'm playing football. No, the way the mortgage world works, it's a lot of contact. So your people are going to be constantly getting approached, but you can't just blanket theory and say they're not loyal. No, that's not the case. I think they just need to be heard, and you need to be attuned with your people, and you got to create systems around that. Like I talked to some of these CEOs, they get so mad, Greg, when some of their people left. And the first question I asked them, I say, hey, I'm going to ask you a very specific black and white question. I literally don't want you to overthink this. When was the last time you spoke to that loan officer on the phone?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. And I'm like, you got to put away the microscope, dude, and pull out the mirror and look in the mirror. It's your fault.
Interesting.
Yeah. No,
I subscribe to some of that. I subscribe to some of that. I mean, at the end of the day, nobody's built the same. There are LOs for whatever reason, like Amir, you get into this conversation about you go into people's lives and how they're wired. And some people are never going to care about the company. They're going to say they do, but they want the check and they're going to roll when it's up. So just like leaders, like we are a mixed bag. We're like a jambalaya in this business. Like And Amir, you just got through an experience at Lower, you know, and not to get, not to drill down on any of that, but it starts at the top of all these companies.
Yeah.
That's where it stops. And if you're struggling or you're losing people, that's where you need to go, is start right up there. What are you doing? What's your focus? What's your strategy? And the companies that are losing people aren't necessarily losing it because somebody's offering the most money. It's because they're not focusing on the right things.
Okay, so let's unpack this. This is a very healthy conversation.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right, man. Like you can do everything for everyone, but some people are just they're not loyal. They're greedy. They're gonna do what's best for them, but not all of them, right? And so I think leaders have to always look in the mirror. There's a lot of freedom to take accountability in things, right? A lot of freedom. And so, like, I'll give you an example without mentioning any companies or names. I coach right now the number 3 loan officer at a top 10 IMB. He was getting ready to leave to another top 10 IMB. And the executives of the IMB called me and said, Amir, we know you're coaching this person. Can you please give the power of the outside voice and maintain your neutrality on why this other lender doesn't make sense? I said, thank you for the trust. I got you. I got on and I went through this 1-hour discovery with this person, this loan officer. And all that he was venting to could be fixed. It had nothing to do with the other company and not even the signing bonus, which was in the millions, by the way, right? And I said, dude, this is what needs to happen. He goes, that's a great idea. I called the executive. I said, who owns your company? I don't even met them. They told me, I go, you need to get this guy on a plane right now to go meet with the owners, and you need to go and sit down for a day and just talk. Okay. Last Monday, gets and goes, Amir, I'm not leaving. I feel heard. Some of this stuff is not rocket science, man. Like, we just have to feel as loan officers appreciated and heard, and things change, Greg. So as proactive leaders, our number one client is the loan officer. Like, when I was doing $100 million plus a year, I was very attuned to my realtors. Greg, I'm going to give you an example of how this works. I give this assignment to all my top producers, and I go, you're going to call your top 10 realtors, and you're going to ask them this question after some pleasantries and all that, and say, hey, I want to get better for you. What's one thing that you like that I do, and what's one thing I can do better? When I did this exercise, you know what my realtors told me? I was shocked. One said, Amir, I hate you call me every single Monday. Don't call me on Mondays. But I say, you pick up and you talk to me for like a half an hour. Like, we just feel bad. We were talking. Okay. The second one, Amir, I want you to support me in more of my charities. Third one, Amir, don't call me. You have all my business. Just take me to lunch maybe once a year. Amir, every referral I send you, you send me a referral. I got like 7 different answers. And in my head, I'm like, I thought all of you just wanted this.
Yeah.
You got to treat people how they want to be treated, not how you want to be treated. So the challenge that I have for a lot of leaders right now, G Shekels, is yes, there's going to be some piece of shit, unloyal, greedy loan officers that don't give a damn. They just want the money. But not all of them are like that. And you got to protect those that just need to be heard and attuned. If you're an executive listening to this and you haven't called your top 20 LOs in the last 90 days, just to say, dude, how are you doing? What's going on with you? Do you need anything? People are tired with the heavy layered management and not having direct executives care about them. That's the message that will never go away, is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, that's really profound. And Richard Milligan, I'm so fond of him. He's just an amazing guy. You know, he points out, and he's right, the biggest miss in our business is we don't retain our own people. We're so busy talking about all these people we can grab, and we don't double down and quadruple down on the folks we have now. How much more could you get out of someone that's already there bleeding your colors if you just poured into them a little bit more or heard them out? So that's a really big opportunity.
Gee, every company that I've left, I haven't been at many in my 20 years, and I've reflected a lot. I leave because of leadership.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have nothing else to say about that. It's because of leadership.
Yeah.
It's the bottom line.
And when it comes to something like rolling out a really intense, level up coaching program like what you do, Amir, it's got to be hard to have that just come from executives anyway, right? Like, the individual needs to be ready for it. It's not going to be for everyone. So I think about that too, of like, there's, enterprise leaders. I don't know exactly what you guys do at NFM, Greg and Rick, but like you guys can roll out coaching programs or something, but to some extent, it needs to happen at the personal level, that the loan officer says, I'm ready to talk to Amir every Monday morning and be held accountable and stuff like that, right? It's a little bit different than just rolling something out for a whole company.
I mean, listen, man, I think the analogy I'll tell you, the cool thing about the position I'm in, Brock, is I am an executive. I own the most prolific loan officer coaching community right now, arguably in the country. I have brokers, credit union guys, IMBs, all state. I get to see it all, right? And I'm very attuned with them. I listen to them. I'm with them, right? Because I love feedback. You know, the road of success is paved with well-received feedback. So I'm always asking for feedback and seeing where they're at. I was an executive at Lower. I have a lot of executive friends like Rick and G Shekels. I mean, the list goes on. So I stay in the mix, right? It's hard, dude. This business right now is very hard. Right? So I have a good idea what loan officers want, executives want. I just think at the end of the day, we got to feel like we're driving an F1 race car right now. Like there's no mistakes. You got to have both hands on the steering wheel, in a harness, with a helmet. So executives got to really tune in with their managers, right? Like I audit everything at Go Coaching. I audit my coaches' calls. I audit the launch calls. Like I'm all in right now. I can't take my eyes off the ball, right? Like I got to make sure we're doing a great job. Executives right now, I think even loan officers, they're still acting how they did 5 years ago. This market is requiring a new us. We got to get really involved. You know, like, dude, I had this company I was at. I'm going to be super just cryptic. Like a bunch of their volume left. And I asked the executive, I go, dude, you're telling me this company only does $2.5 billion. You lost 700 million. How the F did you not even intuitively sense that?
Yeah.
When was the last time you got on a plane and went to these places? Maybe I'm not educated, but I like it because I don't overcomplicate things. I'm very like stupid dumb proof. Like 2 + 2 = 4. All this people left. You never got on a plane to go talk to your people. You can't be sitting in your ivory tower anymore, man. You got to be on the trenches right now.
Yeah.
Right, guys?
True that. True that.
Yeah. No, I mean that's kind of sales management and sort of sales oversight, you know, of that beyond simply just expecting the branch manager to do that, because most of them don't.
And most of them suck. Most BMs suck themselves.
Yeah.
They're
Well, and
override managers.
That's almost a
No
whole
offense,
separate
anybody.
level of coaching to some degree as well, is to be able to, you know,
Sure.
how do you almost train the trainer? You want to train people to kind of help level up their small staff members of 2 or 3 people, because ultimately it ends up being a hire and forget. You know, you hire them and then they're pretty much on their own entirely. And it's kind of what Greg emphasized, is that companies just tend to sort of either overlook or take for granted or simply or just simply don't know how or what to do with people once they're in the door. We know how to recruit them. We know how to get them over, get some of the door, you know, the dotted line, but how do we support them and serve them appropriately?
Yeah, let
in a
me,
way
Rick,
I love those 2 words.
I want to make a
Support.
point though, like, you know, and I try to point to loan officers' lack of loyalty. Amir kind of spun it back and, you know, advocated for the LO. And I think the things that we're talking about, the common thread that is missing that delineates success or failure, it's one word, it's communication. And that is really at the bedrock of what relationships succeed and fail. And I'll just give you a real example, Rick, with someone you brought in to NFM, an amazing producer, you know, does 2-3 million a year. You know, when I was recruiting this person with you, and we were saying things, you know, I made a couple of promises. You know, you come here, we'll do this. You know, you have my word. And you know, through the course of this person onboarding, a couple months goes by, and I've not done the things that I said I was going to do. There were a couple of particular things. None of them are earth shattering, by the way. It's I'm going to do this, and it's or mostly around marketing. Instead of picking up the phone and calling me and giving me the benefit of the doubt and saying, hey, I know you're really busy. Remember, we talked about this. You know, can you execute on that? What's that look like? This person went to a very dark place and said, you know, Greg failed me. He made these promises and didn't deliver. Right. And that's not who I am. Like anybody that knows me knows, if I ever tell you I'm going to do something, man, you fucking better call me out and hold me accountable. I want to be the last person that makes a promise they don't fulfill. I'm telling you right now. That's a fact. So this person doesn't know me that well, And so now we have a little bit of a chasm between us. So as we talk about expectations and delivering, and I say, loan officers aren't loyal, and Amir says, well, it starts with leadership. All of it starts and ends with communication on both sides.
Yeah.
So it's not any one side doing it. And damn it, man, let's start to give people the benefit of the doubt, or at least the benefit of telling them the truth, right? Because if that person, there's another degree that occurs in our business in the example I just gave you. One thing is they can call me and say, you failed to deliver. When can you do this? I know you're probably busy, right? That's the nice benefit of the doubt. That's what I prefer everybody does. And then there's the other person that goes to you, Rick, and says, he made all these promises. He hasn't delivered. He's a loser or whatever. But the third thing that happens in our business is these people pack their shit and they go. And on their way out the door, you're like, what happened? And they're like, well, you told me this and that 6 months ago and never delivered. And I'm like, well, you never even told me you felt that way.
Yeah.
Again, what's at the root of everything I just described?
Communication.
That's it, man. That should be like the word. Like if I could go back and pick January 1st again for the year, it would be communication. And you know what? Maybe I'll name it my word of the year right now. Big announcement.
We talked about that earlier. I don't know if you were on.
I
said your level of income is directly tied to your level of communication. Remember that, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why Friday afternoons from 2 to 5 p.m., this is my identity and who I am. I've done it for the last 5 years. I leave. I go to the cigar lounge. I talk to 10 people. That's my hobby. Everybody should have something that does it. I'm not saying that for me, it slows me down. I enjoy it. I earn my Fridays. I sit down, Greg. I write down names on my iPhone of people, and I stay attuned to people. And I'm not like some mother, like Mother Teresa here. Believe me, I'm getting better every day. But I like to listen to whispers because those whispers become screams. So I call students. I call my coaches. I call the people that are important. And we all have intuition. Because that guy who's unhappy, both you guys have that intuition somewhere inside you saying, man, I need to call this person. Right? And we're the leaders. We got to be the ones that are proactive, because what happens is when there's a chasm between communication, Greg, everybody fills that void with negativity. And then assumptions become accusations. Now I'm all about, how do I plug this? How do I call this guy? Dude, how are you doing? What do you think? I got a student right now. He's unhappy. He went to his executive. No problem. Control mine. I'm going to call him. Hey, bud, what's going on? Heard you're unhappy. I'm all ears. Vent, dump on me. I will not cut you off. He's going to vent. But that took 10 years of me understanding how to do that, because the old hothead Amir would have never done that. Right? I would have called him. You piece of ass. Why would you call? He made me look bad. But I realized over time, anger is a secondary emotion of hurt. So I said, I removed the anger. I said, I'm hurt. I'm going to call him with a vulnerable place. The more we can plug in as executives, Greg, we got to be like crazy glue everywhere we go, dude. We got to be like therapists, man.
Yeah,
that's the key.
For sure. Yeah, but no one's infallible. So more importantly,
you're infallible, man.
Cut the shit. What are you eating, bro? What's going on over there? Talk to us.
I got an amazing Italian. One of my favorite sandwiches is Italian Genoa salami, some mortadella or some hot sauce.
Any mayo? Any mayo?
No mayo. No mushroom.
No mayo, bro. So what is juicing it up for you, man?
Oil?
Just the meat's that tender?
That's oils. It's like just some Italian oils and stuff, man.
Yeah,
but
good gracious.
Yeah. I gotta eat, man. I did legs today, man.
Bro, I've never seen anybody get more use out of a napkin, by the way. You got the same napkin, you folded it like 9 ways. It's basically a ball right now. Are there any unscathed? Is there any unscathed territory on that napkin?
You know what?
Jeez, the most used napkin in the United States is right there with Amir. Look at that thing.
Still getting the job done.
Did he grow a poor kid? He didn't have.
Hey, look, he's a resort. He really did. Yeah, he really did come from rags to riches, didn't he?
My mom. This guy's in my mind. My mom would snap at me if I took too much of the paper towels. You know how you can. My mom used to bring popcorn and Coca-Cola to the movie theaters, man. I'm an immigrant at heart, man. I value everything, dude. I don't waste nothing.
You're the best, bro. I love you. I got to go take my kid to a tennis tournament in York, Pennsylvania now.
Okay,
Hey,
man. All right. Chuck, it's good to see
Amir,
you,
I
man.
appreciate you, and Greg, appreciate you popping in, and I appreciate Amir, you dropping in and
was
being our
awesome.
guest on this Good Friday.
This is
Real
cool,
Friday.
man. We
So,
should have
You got to
we
head to
should-
the cigar lounge in a second, right? It's almost 2 p.m. Friday. Yeah.
Yeah,
Amir,
about 30 minutes.
I'm gonna chop this up on using Opus clips, the solution that Renee uses, and so I'll give you access to it so you can get if there's any pieces of this you find that your team likes, then you guys can use it for social. So okay,
I'm gonna overnight you this. Okay, sounds good.
Dude, I want that, please. Yes, let me have that. Thank you.
take care, guys.
I'm gonna put that. I'm gonna
Appreciate
put that napkin into rehab immediately. I feel terrible. I feel terrible for that napkin.
I'm using it tonight too at dinner, so it's not done yet, man.
All right, later.
See you guys. I love you guys. I'll see you guys.